of African unity was fighting for its emancipation over the years, from the 1963s when OAU was formulated. And so the agenda and the narrative for the continent was its emancipation, its political emancipation. And in their infinite wisdom, our heads of state, when they gathered to then change the dispensation from OAU to the African Union, the thinking and the understanding at the time was that Africa had attained its political emancipation. And it was now time for Africa to fight for its economic emancipation. That is why the narrative then changed from OAU to the African Union. And the sport under the Organization of African Unity dispensation was run in Africa through what was called the Supreme Council for Sport in Africa. And through the Supreme Council for Sport in Africa, Africa was divided into 7 zones. That is why some of you would remember that we were operating as what are then called Supreme Council for Sport in Africa, or some wanted to call it SCASA, and it was on 6, because Africa was divided into 7 zones, and we were the 6th zone. So when the heads of state met and then decided to then move from OAU to AU, they also challenged sport, and that was in City, Libya in 2007, when they then met as heads of state. And they then said sport must also revitalize and align itself to the new dispensation of African Union. So AU was then tasked to ensure that sport then revitalized. And I'm glad to say that on the 26th of July in 2013 in Abidjan, Cote d'Ivoire, that is when the SCASA was dissolved. And that was the birth of the African Union Sports Council. And the one very interesting development was that Africa, under the AU geographical demarcation, was then divided into 5 regions, which explains why we are African Union Sports Council Region 5. It's because under the AU, Africa is divided into 5 regions. So the southern part is the one that then takes up Region 5. Northern Africa is Region 1, West Africa is Region 2, Central Africa is Region 3, and East Africa is Region 4, and we are Region 5. That is how we are known as African Union Sports Council Region 5. So basically the mandate of African Union Sports Council, which is headquartered in Yaoundé, Cameroon, that's where our head office at continental level is. The mandate that we drive is to ensure that, number one, we coordinate and ensure that there is development of sport at all levels, sport and recreation. So we don't only stand for sport at its competitive level. We stand for recreation and sport for all, and community sport, and sport in the workplace, and healthy lifestyle. We also stand for promotion of physical education and physical activity. In other words, we want to ensure that our nations are healthy and our nations attain a healthy lifestyle. The third mandate that we have is to ensure that Africa competes at the elite level, and it is able to compete at the very top with everybody else. So we talk high performance. That's one of our mandates as well, which is a third wing of our mandate, to ensure that there is high performance in Africa and that our athletes compete and they're on the podium like everybody else. The fourth mandate we have is around infrastructure. We stand to ensure that Africa has infrastructure that can, 1, facilitate its athletes to compete, but 2, can be able to host major international championships like everybody else. Because we are on the 12th of November last year, and our next Council of Ministers meeting is here in Lesotho in 2021. But in between, the Council of Ministers meets in its extraordinary sessions, and I'm coming to that. Because we do host games every 2 years. And because we've got ministers gathered for those games every 2 years, we then organize on the margins of the games an extraordinary session of our Council of Ministers, which then means that another of our Council of Ministers meeting, which is an extraordinary session, will be hosted here in Lesotho in 2020, next year, because Lesotho is hosting our next edition of the games. So that's the Council of Ministers, basically to drive the policy direction of the region. And then below this Council of Ministers, there must be people who then drive the programs. So we have what is referred to as the Executive Committee. And the Executive Committee is made up of the chairpersons of the sports commissions, the CEOs of sports commissions, and directors of sport in each country. So these 3 people in each of our 10-member countries, the 30 of them, which forms the Executive Committee, their responsibility is then to unpack the policy pronouncements by the ministers into strategies for the region. So then they become our strategic General Assembly, if you like, who then drive the programs of the region. But because they are coming from various countries, there must be a board which ensures that the day-to-day running of the region runs. And our board, in our case, we call it secretariat. So they elect a board made up of 5 people. And our board is what we refer to as the secretariat, which drives business in between executive committees. Because our executive committee meets twice a year. That's why we are here now. Our executive committee meets every May and around November of every year. So in between, business must be driven by the board. And that is the board that we refer to as our secretariat. And the board is comprised of a chair and a vice chair, and a secretary general, who is myself, who is the head of the staff in the office as the CEO. And we do have the chairperson, technical sport development and technical commission, and the chairperson of finance and marketing is our board. And we have various other functional organs as a region. I'm giving you this background so that you understand. When I then unpack the programs and how they are running, you understand the structure that we have politically and from a programming side of views. So the executive committee and the secretariat, they do have various organs that help them drive the programs of the region. And one of the organs, like someone was mentioning, we do have the Sport for People with Disabilities Committee. We do have the Women in Sport Committee. And after the committees, we then have commissions. We have the Sport Development Technical Commission and the Finance and Marketing Commission. But over and above that, we have other organs, like the Regional Organizing Committee for the Games, which is a standing committee, which is responsible for the hosting of the games and the running of the games. And we have other ad hoc committees that we do have, for example, that are legal in nature, constitutional organs and ad hoc committees. These are the organs that help the organization to then drive its mandate and run its programs. Of course, we do have a full-time secretariat, which is a staff that is based, our headquarters in Gaborone in Botswana, which then ensures that the operations of the region are coordinated and running. So what brings us to Lesotho? Like I mentioned, we then meet every year twice. Our executive committee meets twice every year, and the meetings are held in the member countries on rotational basis. We have a hosting roster, which has got, so we know who is going to host which meeting up to 2030. We are here in May in Lesotho. In November, we are going to be in South Africa this year. Next year in May, we are going to be in Mozambique. And in November, we are going to be in Malawi. In 2021, so we know where we're going to be having these meetings in that regard. But over and above that, we also do have other fundamental forums, like our confederations forum. We have an organ called our regional sports confederations, which is made up of all the national sports codes of sport. At the moment, we've got 19 of them, which includes your COSAFA, COSANA for netball, FIBA, Africa Zone 6 for basketball, Zone 4, Region 5 boxing, and so on and so on. These are confederations made up of all the 10 sports federations in the countries. They make a confederation, which is also our regional organs. So we do run forums for them, a confederation forum which we run every 4 years. Obviously alternating with a sports review forum in all those years. So we know who is hosting what event, and so it is the 10th for Lesotho to host this meeting, these meetings that run in the span over a period of two weeks. So in this instance, today as I speak to you, we've got 2 parallel sessions running, where we've got all 10 member countries represented. They have sent their representations for the Sport for People with Disabilities, SPWD, we call it, committee meeting. And basically they are unpacking the programs to do with our efforts towards establishing Region 5 Paralympic Games. They are looking into classification of our visually impaired athletes and these athletes with disabilities for major games, especially as we focus on our Region 5 games going on now. They are assessing also the performances of our athletes at the Commonwealth Games that were hosted in Gold Coast as a region around sport for people with disabilities. How did our athletes with disabilities fare at the Commonwealth Games, so that we look at what were our successes and what were our shortcomings, so that we then pronounce policies that drive development of sport within this region. So that's sport for people with disabilities. But over and above that, they're also looking into how they are playing a role in driving our strategic plan, which is 2018 to 2028, around sport for people with disabilities. The other parallel session is for women in sport. Again, we do have all, at this stage, of course, we do have 8 because Angola is on the way because of delays on flights, and Swaziland is also on its way. So we have 8 countries represented at this stage in the Women in Sport Committee meeting. They are also looking at the issues pertinent to the performances of our athletes, particularly our women and girls. I must say to you today, this region, the successes that we've celebrated at every level, they have come from female athletes. That's why today, names like Maria Mutola, Amante Montlo from Botswana, Caster Semenya in South Africa, Kirsty Coventry in Zimbabwe, they resonate with success at the highest level. The first gold medal to be won here in this region in sport at the Olympic Games was in 1980 by a hockey team from Zimbabwe. It was female. And so the successes by our women are documented. And therefore, as a region, we take pride in investing in capacity development and supporting the initiatives that promote women and girl children into sport. So our Women in Sport committee is sitting, looking at, number one, how have we performed as women? And we're sharing as well, they're already analyzing, they have seen that at the Common Games we won a total of 44 medals, won by South Africa, Botswana and Namibia. And out of these 44 medals, 13 of them came from women. And out of the gold medals that we won at the Commonwealth Games, 33% of those gold medals came from women. And those are critical things that we want to look at. And then saying, what are our success factors? And what are the challenges that we need to address so that we promote more women succeeding? And that's what they are seized with as we speak. And they are also looking at the adequacy and the appropriateness of our strategic plan in advancing these programs and seeing how else we should be able to address. So they advise us as women who are on the ground to then say these are the things that we need and this is the support we require. So that is what is going to spend the whole day today looking into how they can unpack our strategic plan. Once they are done with that, tomorrow, the 26th, we then have our Sport Development Technical Commission, which then sits, one, to assess all the technical programs that we have and in terms of how we are deriving success. But of course, the Women in Sport and SPWD, they are a part of that development commission. And we made a very conscious decision as a region to realize that we cannot talk sport at high level and at development level when we don't realize that school sport is important. So COSASA, which is a Confederation of School Sport Associations of Southern Africa, is a member of our SDTC. So they will also be arriving today for the meeting tomorrow. The Regional Anti-Doping Organization, RADO, is a member of our SDTC. So that we make a comprehensive assessment of what progress, what successes, what milestones, what challenges have we encountered technically to ensure that we drive sport within this region in the mandate that I gave you earlier on, the 4 mandates that we have around development, high performance, infrastructure and capacity development. So that is what is going to seize them with them. They will also analyze, of course, get a global analysis of our performances and project what kind of performances we require in the 8th edition of our Region 5 Games that will be happening later on from the 9th to the 16th of December in Gaborone, Botswana. So once the SDTC has met and they've looked at development and technical matters, those matters that have got financial and marketing issues must then be synthesized by our Finance and Marketing Commission, which also sits, in which also our legal advisor sits in that commission. So then we look at the finances and how the programs are impacting or are impacted by finances and so on. And we look at our revenue generation. Our